I think a student first encountering chip carving is likely to have the same feeling I had when I started to study, and that was fear, because it's a relatively unknown style and quite different from all other forms of carving. But in a relatively short period of time, this abates, because you're using a technique more than an artistic education. And once you learn the technique of how to hold the knife and how to apply it to the wood, the anxiety disappears, and the skill comes very quickly. I really became drawn to chip carving because I was impressed with the simplicity of it, with the wide range of application of it, and how quickly you could get results with it. Chip carving lends itself to everything from the simplest of design to the most elaborate. You can take a single line and carve it on the edge of a piece of furniture, and it'll enhance the furniture. You can take a plain box and carve the most elaborate design. There's no end to the kinds of carving you can do. Rosettes are a great example. The variations are endless. I have tried to conceive of where it might end. I have done hundreds of rosettes. None of them are alike.
Hi, I'm Wayne Barton. I'm a wood carver, and I specialize in a Swiss style of chip carving. Chip carving is an incisive form of carving using very simple cuts to achieve a wide variety of motifs and designs. In the next 20 minutes we can't cover everything, but I would like to introduce you to the basics of how to start with borders, how to do a rosette, and then we'll take a look at some free form. On the shelves here, I have some examples of exactly what we're talking about. Here is a border based on a three-corner chip, the negative diamond border. Compare that to the lace border that's curved. And here's an example of a more elaborate lace border. This is a triple lace. Here's some examples of the rosette. This particular one is a swirl that was very popular in furniture in the Pennsylvania Dutch period. Here is a lace rosette. And this one here is a flower, but it's actually a rosette outside the confines of a circle. And you'll notice that this has the three-corner chip around the border also. Here's a good example of how the two come together to decorate a whole object. You can see the flower rosette in the center, and we have the flower positive border motif around the edge. Compare that to the negative border that we had earlier. Now I'd like to show you one of my favorites. There's a dandelion. This is free form. It's a form found in nature. Notice how it moves. It's got a lot of life to it, and it's kind of cute. Compare the freedom and the movement of this to this very geometrical Gothic stone tracery. Now let's take a look at the tools we're going to use. The tools we'll need are really quite simple. Pencil, ruler, a compass, and these are the only two knives that you'll need. They're made in Switzerland. This one is a stab knife. It's a decorative knife. It removes no wood. And this is a cutting knife. The shape of these knives is unique. The length of the blade in relationship to the handle, the shape of this downward angle, and the shape of this handle is very comfortable to be able to hold and carve for long periods of time. I have a board here with the borders already drawn out, ready for carving. The first border here is the one that we're going to use for the two forms of the three-cornered cut. That is the positive and the negative, and we'll also do the zigzag border with it. The second one is for the lace border. The dimensions here are 2 millimeters, 4 millimeters, 4 millimeters, 2 millimeters, and they're both the same. This is 2, 4, 4, 2. These dimensions seem to be the optimum for a well-balanced border. And here is how we begin. To hold the knife properly, you want to place this knuckle on your thumb right on the edge of the handle like this, on the underside. So when you place your hand down, you will ride on your knuckles, and it'll give you the proper angle, which is 65 degrees for the knife to approach the wood. You also want to turn your wrist out so the knife lines up with your arm. Now, the most important thing here is to keep your thumb against the handle. If you don't, you lose control. You have no cutting control this way. The minute you put your thumb against the handle, you have complete control in any direction with the knife. To start, you want to put your point right here, and you want to raise it up to a perfect V, not down like this, but up like this. And you're going to press straight down to the opposite corner like this. Skip this square and do the next one. Same way. Skip this one and press straight down. Now, this is the first position. The second position is the same angle in the opposite direction by placing your thumb on the spine of the knife. Turn your board 180 degrees, and you want to put your point right back where you began, and you're going to do the same thing in the opposite direction. You're going to press straight down to the opposite corner like this. Come to the next one, press straight down. Come to the next one, press straight down. Now for your third cut, you want to go from the second position back to your first position without moving the board. You're going to cut down this way and across this way at the same time, and your chips will come right out. Now to get the other side, you want to start right back where you started from, right here. Again, don't have your knife down when you cut. You want to stand it straight up like this and press straight down. Skip this one, press straight down. Skip this one, press straight down. For the next cut, you can turn your board 180 degrees and go from your first position to your second position. Straight down, straight down. Notice I'm thrusting in, I'm not slicing. Straight down. Now for your third cut, you're going to go from the second position back to your first position. This time you're going to cut down and across at the same time. And your chip comes right out, like this. And that'll complete the positive diamond. Now let's consider the negative diamond. Instead of starting in the center as we did before, we'll go up to the border. But we'll do it the same way because we're going to make the same chip. Thrust down to the opposite corner, just like this. You'll skip the next square, thrust down to the opposite corner, skip the square, thrust down. Now, turn your board 180 degrees, go back to your second position, start where you were, thrust straight down, like this. Now, without moving the board, again, we'll go back to the first position, just like this. You can see that the pieces just pop right out. Now, to get the other side, we'll go back up on the border, stand the knife up, press straight down. Skip this one, press straight down. Skip this one. You'll notice that we're lining up, press straight down. Now, turn your board 180 degrees, go from your first position to your second position. Put it back where you started from with the first cut. Press straight down. Press straight down. Now, without moving the board, go back to your first position and cut straight across. The piece will come right out. And that'll do the negative border. Here's your positive, your negative. Now let's consider the zigzag. In order to do the zigzag, again, we're going to go back to the same position we did here on the positive diamond, not up on the border. We'll start right here, press straight down, skip this one, press down, skip this one, press straight down. Turn your board 180 degrees, go to your second position, press straight down. Go back to your first position without turning the board. Cut straight down, across and down. Now this time we'll do something differently. Instead of going back here, as we might over here, we will move over one square. Press straight down. Skip this one. Press straight down. Turn your board. You're making the same size chip, the same type. Now, without moving the board, go from your second position to the first. Your chips will come right out.
You'll notice now we have the zigzag.
Here's a neat little trick. Let's change the positive diamond into a flower.
To do that, we'll do what is called a flip-flop action. That's flipping from the first position to the second position, like this. And we'll just take that flower and cut it on both sides, like this, all the way up to the center. Just keep moving your work around, doing the same flip-flop action. And there we have the flower border. Now let's consider dressing up the negative diamond. By doing that, we're going to measure halfway from here to here. It's called eyeballing, right about here. You notice what we're going to do is make a half diamond. You'll notice it's the same chip that we were making before. This is a three-cornered chip. Do the same thing on the other side. Again, we're halfway between here and here. How quickly this just moves right along. That dresses up the negative diamond very nicely. Now let's consider what these last two lines are for.
First, you want to do your border and make your first cut away from the work on the line. So your first cut will be like this. Now you don't want to rip that off to the end of the board, so just rock it down so you don't cut yourself. Turn your board around using the same position. Come back. And cut that out. The other side is the same way. As we move along here, let me tell you that the trick to cutting a straight line is to look right in front of the blade, not at the blade itself, but in front of it. That way your eye will know exactly what the hand should be doing. That'll set the border very nicely. Now let's consider the lace border. Lace border is laid out in 3-centimeter sections. The curved line in the lace border is not a circle, but an elliptical line. You can draw it either freehand or with a template. The first cut will be made on the line itself. When you start, you're going to start shallow until you cross this center line here. And then you will go deeper, because the width of the chip is going to be determined by the depth that you go. And you notice as I come all the way out, on my second swing, this is lifting all the way out of the wood. Now for the second cut, you do not change the position of the knife, you merely turn the board around. Again, you'll be shallow in the beginning. When you cross that line, now you'll go a little bit wider. This will put variety in the shape and size of your chip. Makes it far more interesting. Now for the second side, you do it the same way, and as you cross this line again, you don't want to go any deeper than you have to. That would undercut the work that you've already done and lift it out, particularly in these corners here. So you start shallow. Then when you cross that line, you can go in deeper. And as you come back around, you draw the blade out. To finish the cut, turn your board. Do not change the position of your knife. You're still in the first position. Cross the line and go a little bit wider and draw your blade out. Now that's the beginning of the lace border, but we can dress that up. We'll put the negative diamond in the center here. Again, we're judging halfway distance between here and here. This is cut exactly as you did before with the negative diamond. And there's the negative diamond. Now to finish this off, what we want to do is to add these little half diamonds right in here, again halfway. Turn your board, go to your second position. Back to your first position. Now you do the other side. That's the lace border. Now let's see how that compares to what we saw earlier. Here's your negative border, just as we completed. Your lace border and your flower border. Now let's take a look at how do we carve this particular rosette. This is a very simple 12-point rosette. It is easily drawn with the compass. These petals are established by the same radius that the entire rosette is. The main features are the positive petals here, and then we have the negative petals right behind them, and we have the background. Then there is the features in the center, and finally we have the ring around the outside. Now I can see from the way that this blade feels that we're going to have to freshen it up a bit before we get started. The way that we do that is to take a flat stone. This particular stone is a ceramic. I like a ceramic because it doesn't need any oil or water. Lay your blade flat on the stone and raise it up about 10 degrees. You want a little bit on one side, flip it over, give it the same amount on the other side, and that'll bring your blade to absolute sharp without putting a burr on it. Yes, that's good. Now we're ready to carve. The rule of thumb is to take your largest pieces out first. And you'll notice, as I cut along here, that I'm making all the same cuts first. It's an economy of movement. Incidentally, the wood that I'm working with is basswood. It's an excellent carving wood. It's a tight, even grain. You'll notice as I cut down, I go for the depth first. This is the widest part of the chip, so I go all the way down, and then as I cut, because this is narrower in here, I'm removing the knife. Here's the wide part of the chip again. I'll go all the way down for it, and then I remove the knife. Now we'll go for the next piece here. Ideally, all of these should pop right out. There's a little bit down in the corner. If you get a little bit like that, you want to clean it out right away because it's cleaning it out that makes it look crisp and smooth. Now I want you to notice also that this piece here is the same as the inside of the negative petal right here. And we'll take the negative petal next. I'll cut this one next. Now this being the wide part, we'll go down, and then we'll draw the knife out. Just like that. Cut the back side of this one. You start very shallow in here because you're very close to the center. Again, we'll start nice and shallow. We go deeper as we go. And this one is just the opposite. We draw the blade out. We go down, go in, and draw the blade out. And we'll take this side here first. Now you'll notice as I keep moving along here that the angle never changes. That way you'll know that the knife will always meet down in the center. And the last piece here, I'll show you another little trick. As we move along here, I'm going to tuck the blade underneath, and as I curl it underneath like this. The reason for that is this. You'll notice that when I come along here, the top of the blade meets the end of the cut before the bottom. So as you hit the top, just keep curling the bottom underneath like that, and you'll hit right in the center down there. I'll do it again on this one. So you come along here. Now the next thing is to remove these center pieces. You notice I didn't cut on the line. The line is only a reference. You can adjust that with your knife as you go along. I carve better than I draw. And now we have a feature up here. This kind of accents the pedal. Now the last thing we have left is this outer ring. The rule of thumb is always cut away from your work first. So we'll have to make this inside cut first. Again, as we said earlier, the way to do it is to look in front of the blade as you cut along. Don't look at the blade. There, that'll finish up the rosette. Let's see how the same knife techniques look in free form. You can make this in any kind of direction that you want. Nice thing about free form is that you can kind of make it up as you go along. I have a floral motif and design in mind here. And so it'll look something like this. This will be the bud right here. Now let's decorate that with the stab knife. Notice the stab knife is shaped quite differently. You hold it like this. It works with a downward thrust. So we'll establish the stamen in our bud. You see how quickly the stab knife cuts along, and that'll do it nicely for the free form. Of course, this is only the beginning. We have many examples here on the shelves of the different directions you can take this style. I wish you the best of luck with your chip carving.